and welcome to another episode of I'm the Only Sane One in the Room version of Movie Monday. Today, these two watched The Mummy. And I don't mean they rewatched the old Mummy. I mean that they watched the 2017
No,
version.
Tara, you got it wrong. We watched the entire Dark Universe.
Ah, yes, that's true. They finished the entire Dark Universe.
They're really efficient. They got through it all in one movie.
Yeah, I have to say that's a record.
Yeah. Actually, you know what's even sadder about that?
What?
So originally, a different movie was supposed to be the first of the Dark Universe, but that movie bombed. So they were like, "Never mind, we're going to do The Mummy instead, be the original." So this was take two, and it was still as bad.
That's so sad.
Yeah. I don't know where to begin. Like, besides, of course, like your questions, I'm just like, there's a lot. There's so much random stuff to just mention that I want to mention, but it's like I don't know.
Hopefully my questions will bring up those points.
Okay, hopefully.
It worked last time.
Yeah, it did.
Okay. Question 1. The first Mummy movie we all panned as the lowest of monster movies. How do you feel about this one, and do you actually appreciate the older version more now?
No. But
there's still too many white people.
Well, it's just the fact this movie is bad doesn't mean the other one's just not, you know. I will say, I don't know. The 30s Mummy is just kind of boring, and like not very much happens. So like, you know, I mean, this one's, well, I wouldn't really say this movie's boring. It's
very strange.
It's strange and nonsensical. It's not really boring.
Like, if you think about something for too long, it doesn't make any goddamn sense. And like, even for the screen time it makes no goddamn sense.
Yeah. Wait. Okay, we have to say this. So, Tara, in a movie called The Mummy, guess when in the movie they first go to Egypt. Guess how far into the movie they actually go into Egypt.
Well, I mean, there had to have been a flashback scene, right? So...
Okay, that's true. There is a flashback scene, so that's true, in the very beginning. So, but besides that, when do the main characters go to Egypt?
The sad thing is that on the Wikipedia page, I know I've read this too, which is that... Is it, like, halfway through the movie at least?
No, the final scene of the movie.
The final scene?
It's the last, like, 2 minutes of the closing sequence.
They're literally it's Tom Cruise and the other fucking dude. They're riding on horses towards pyramids, and it's like, but wait, like you already did the Mummy. Like, what are you gonna do with the pyramids? It doesn't make any sense.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the like.
I know most of the movie takes place in London for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yes. The beginning part takes place in Iraq.
Yeah.
And that's where they find the mummy.
They literally say that, like, oh, the Egyptians, like dragged her from fucking Thebes to, like, northern Iraq just to bury her or whatever. And it's like, who the fuck? Why would they do that?
They go through so much effort, especially
like, what poor asshole?
Back then.
What poor assholes had to, like, fucking walk to goddamn Iraq from Egypt? Like, they're like, hey, we know that, like, we have to bury this bitch and she sucks. We're gonna bury her far away, so you gotta take her of this. Okay, how far? Oh, just walk like 1,000 miles. Just see you for 3 years. Like,
Wait. Isn't there a better way they could have done this? Like, they could have just thrown her into the Mediterranean.
That's exactly what I said!
Literally what I said. I was like, if they don't want her to come back, chuck her into the ocean, chuck her into the Nile, into the Mediterranean, chuck her into any body of water. They did not even disembowel her before they, like, buried her.
No, they literally say that, like, they mummify her and, like, bury and, like, wrap her up and, like, bury her alive. And I'm like, well, if you're burying her alive, what's the point of wrapping her up?
Like, these Egyptians didn't know how to mummify a bitch.
Oh my god. And then yeah, so that's a thing.
I take it then that you guys liked at least the costume, like the the flashback sequence in the original movie, I guess, a little bit better.
I guess. Like, here's the thing. Like, okay, honestly, like, some of the design elements of, like, the mummy in this version are actually kind of neat. Like, for example, there are parts where you can see that her eyes, she actually has, like, 2 irises and 2 pupils, which is, like,
Mm.
kind of, honestly, it's an interesting sort of design thing, and that works. But, like, you really can't see it very well.
No,
it took
because
us like
of the
a long
lighting.
it took us a long time to even notice it was there, and then again the lighting is kind of not great. It's dark a lot of the time, and then even then, it's just kind of hard to see the fucking what's in people's eyes. So like there's that, and then also the effects.
Oh wait, save that.
Okay,
That is
okay,
the question.
okay,
That
I'll
is the
save that.
question.
So, but yeah, so there's some elements that are like they could maybe work in terms of like costume design and stuff like that, but it just doesn't really come together in a way that actually works. So.
I mean,
Mhm.
I think that the fact that the 1930s mummy took place in Egypt, I have to give them more credit
Yeah.
right off the bat.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
God, this movie is so dumb.
Oh, actually, wait, Tara. Okay, so guess the very first scene of the movie. Do you know where that takes place?
It's not the flashback sequence or the flashback sequence.
Well, which
It's-
flashback sequence are you talking about?
There's more than one flashback.
Oh, yeah!
Yep.
I would
I'm not
hope
sure if this is on-
Egypt. I would hope Egypt.
No.
The first scene of the movie is England in the year
During the Crusades.
in the year 1127.
What? Why?
I don't know. It's literally they have this thing where like apparently some like English knights like went and like stole the dagger and like the stone thing from Egypt or something for some reason.
But then you looked it
Why?
up, and they went like several
Oh, yeah,
decades after they were actually there.
Because we were like, wait, did the Crusaders even go to Egypt? Apparently they did, but they showed in the movie, they said it was specifically 1127, but the Crusaders didn't go to Egypt until like 1154 or something. So like, you had to at least have looked that up to like know that this happened. I mean, again, at least they went to Egypt, but then you just get the year wrong. It's like, whatever. But yeah, they show
You know
this.
what else they get wrong?
What?
What?
I don't remember.
Set. He's
Oh,
not
yeah.
the god of death.
They keep saying
Oh,
Set is the
yeah.
god of death. He's the god of war and chaos.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So yeah, I
Wait,
have to
but
give the 1930s
why-
one more credit.
Why would they even have the Crusaders?
I don't know!
No,
They turned into
What
this
do
weird plot.
Crusaders have to do with the mummy?
Again, they bring this whole thing about, the Crusaders took the dagger and the jewel thing, but, like, why did that have to be part of the story? No, it's just, Oh, and also the whole flashback thing with the princess and whatever, like, that flashback in Egypt or whatever is, like,
Mhm.
completely unnecessary because in the movie, like, Tom Cruise gets fucking, like, pseudo-possessed or whatever, and while he's pseudo-possessed, he gets shown, like, images of the flashback. So it's
There
basically,
are-
like, they show
There are
us...
diegetic flashbacks in
Right,
this movie.
they basically show
Oh my God.
us what happened, like, twice, so for no reason. So, yeah.
I guess going off with the mummy was changed from a man, like the original, to a woman. What is your opinion of this, and do you think it was a cool idea?
I mean, it makes sense that, like, because all of the Universal monsters are pretty much all, like, dudes, right?
Mm.
So if you were... And, like, honestly, this is probably one of the ones, like, that
This is one
doesn't...
of the easier ones.
It's
to
it's
cover.
one of the easier ones to change. It doesn't really matter in terms of their character very much, So like that aspect's fine. And again, some elements of like her actual like character design I think are decent. So,
She is not the most annoying woman
No,
in this movie.
no, she's not. She's probably like this is a very low bar, but she's probably the best thing about the movie. But it's still a very low bar. So
I guess on that note, then how did you guys feel about the female lead? Because I remember we didn't really like well, we didn't like many of the characters of the original Mummy, but how did you guys?
She's an annoying, mediocre white woman.
Go.
I kept calling her that because I couldn't remember her name.
I don't remember her
Apparently,
name.
it's Jenny.
Oh yeah, that was her name. Yeah, no, it's one of those. It's another. Okay, you know how in Man of Steel,
Yes.
Lois Lane was introduced as like, oh, look at this great reporter who's so smart and capable or whatever. And then
Mhm.
after that, like, first introduction, her entire role is basically just to stand there and like stare at things like, what's going on? And of course, like, Superman like saves her and shit like that, right? So all of that like character introduction is completely irrelevant to like what she actually is as a character.
Mhm.
Same exact situation here. It's done worse here,
Okay.
actually. So yeah, they just look at this like great like archaeologist person or whatever, and it's like, okay, but then it's like,
Like all she does is like spew random exposition
Yeah.
and then be annoying
yeah,
because they're trying to. Valen was saying it when we were watching that they were trying to do like the Tony Stark thing with Tom Cruise's character and like make him kind of a dick, but it just
doesn't
made
work. He just
like
is a
their
dick.
interactions more irritating.
Yeah, he just is a dick. He's not like sort of like a likable dick. He's just an asshole, and it's like it doesn't work. And again, yeah, like, and of course they force the thing where it's like, oh, you know, she didn't like him at first, but you know, oh, they because he saves her, whatever, she falls for him. It's that kind of stupid garbage again. So yeah, she's just so unremarkable, and who cares?
Oh my god.
Don't need her. Do not need her at all.
I guess question 3. Do you think the Dark Universe had potential, or do you think it was already taking on water from the get-go?
Okay, I think there is some potential in possibly sort of redoing something with these kinds of things, but it doesn't really, as an actual like cinematic universe, it doesn't really work, especially if you're doing it as sort of like, again, you know, a 2010s 2020s like movie series, right?
Mhm.
Because again, like, I know that like they sort of again, the Universal Monsters originally they did do crossover stuff, but those were, again, that was that style of movie. It's sort of kind of silly already, right? It having this be like a serious thing just doesn't really seem like it would fit. And of course the movie itself doesn't, you know, it's just, who cares? It doesn't really do anything. There is one thing that I think actually is kind of cool in concept. And it's the whole thing that actually happens with like Tom Cruise at the end of the movie, where he sort of like becomes some like new monster or whatever. That's actually not a terrible idea in the sense of like, hey, we're going to sort of almost like add to the lore and kind of make up our own new thing. Like, that's not a bad idea. The problem is that, again, this happens like the very end of the fucking movie, so we don't know anything about it, you know. But also, like, it basically just seems like he's sort of like kind of like a Dr.
Like
Jekyll,
another Jekyll and
another
Hyde.
Jekyll Hyde situation that also has like sort of like god powers or something. It's really vague.
Can I like talk about Jekyll's characterization a little bit for a second? So, Jekyll's kind of set up to be this kind of Nick Fury-esque figure, I guess, because he's like a curator at the museum, but he's like, he also hulks out because there's Hyde. And like at first I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of neat, like having him like be so knowledgeable because, you know, Dr. Jekyll was such a smart dude. But then I realized after a while, I was like, this is not Dr. Jekyll, because Dr. Jekyll is a paragon of goodness. That's the reason that Hyde is so evil. And I was just like, wait, they didn't even get the characterization of like the other person that they reference, right?
Oh my god. Yeah, did anyone else like appear in this movie?
Not really.
As characters, no. I mean,
We
again,
saw like a vampire skull.
yeah,
like,
you see shit like that, and like there's like some thing in like a tank or something, but like, yeah,
I think you said it was like the Dark Universe room or something.
yeah.
The Dark Universe room.
Well, because apparently, like, I know, in Amazing Spider-Man 2, there's like a scene where like you can see like all of this like villain gear like in various like hallways or something.
Oh wait, you said Amazing Spider-Man 2, right? 'Cause
Right,
one
yeah.
of the writers.
Oh
worked
yeah,
on
one of
this.
the writers for this movie was a writer for Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
So maybe that's where he got it from.
Or no, it was the director of this movie was one of the writers of Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're like, wow, that explains actually a
Yeah,
lot.
no, when you said that, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. So the fact they like shove all that in for, and it doesn't amount to like anything. So
Wow.
yeah.
I guess, in this movie, the quote-unquote curse is actual possession, while in the original it was more so the mummy hypnotizing the female lead. How do you guys feel about the fact it was also given through a spider bite? Because apparently, according to Wikipedia, like, the first guy got bitten by a spider and
Yeah.
then lost control of the airplane.
Okay,
I'm so annoyed that they didn't put scarabs into this movie.
okay, yeah. So the two, well, I guess three sort of like animals that are used in this movie, okay, are spiders, crows, and rats.
Crows?
Yes.
Crows.
Now,
Why?
here's the thing: are those animals associated with death? Yes, but two of those three are associated with death in like Europe, not fucking Egypt. And, you know, and like I was curious, like, are there even crows in like the Middle East? And I looked it up. There is actually a species of corvid in the Middle East, but it looks like some like brown bird. It doesn't look like an actual fucking black crow, which is what you see. You know, they literally like they dig up the tomb or whatever, and they pulling her body out. And there's these like crows, black crows, on these buildings around it. It's just like, okay,
what?
So yeah, it doesn't. So that doesn't make any sense. Again, the crows have no connection with like the fucking mummy stuff. That's not a thing. So, and like. And the whole thing with the plane, so what happens supposedly is that there's this like swarm of crows that like smash into the plane or something. Which, first of all, I remember that scene being shown in the trailer, and I remember the trailer actually made the scene look kind of neat, like from an action standpoint. But it just like it's so like drawn out in this movie.
They draw it out so
They
much.
draw it out so much that it's just like, who cares? And then and we were during the scene because we were talking about the scarab thing, and I'm like, how much cooler would it have been if instead of crows it was literally just like fucking scarabs like slamming
Like,
into the
horrifying,
airplane?
but awesome would that be?
And having them literally the scarabs just tearing the plane apart, like that'd be that'd actually be kind of awesome for like an action set piece. But no.
And it could also, if they're like mythical scarabs, they could be like metal slicing scarabs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like bugs, but I find scarabs kind of cool, like with their design and like their place in Egyptian culture. But they went with spiders as their insect of choice.
Well, not insects, but yeah, it's just arthropod of choice.
Arthropod of choice.
Yeah, it's just it's a spider. It's like, oh, okay, spiders, because we've totally never seen spiders do creepy things before.
You just mentioned the Amazing Spider-Man.
I know.
Mm.
So yeah, that was just dumb.
So what you're saying is that the quote-unquote curse where it was like self-inflicted on the mummy and stuff actually made more sense.
Well, because at least then it implies that, the mummy has some power to do that. And it's like, okay, I can believe that's a fucking mummy that's alive. Like, it has weird powers. Okay, instead of just, I'm gonna summon spiders to do it for me. And it's like, okay, but, I don't know.
Like, in a weird way, at least for the time where the mummy lady is, like, locked up in the, I guess, Eldritch Horror dungeon, isn't she kind of a damsel in distress, and, like, Tom Cruise is supposed to save her?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What?
Because that's the whole thing, is that she's all like locked up or whatever, and so because she's like in his mind trying to like get him do stuff for her, so it's like she's trying to kind of like convince him to free her or whatever. But that doesn't work, so she instead just like uses a fucking spider to bite some other dude, and he does it. So it's like,
and then she breaks the chains that she
broke. And then she just breaks out of the chains anyway. So it's like, okay, the idea is that they were like pumping mercury into her so she couldn't move or whatever. So like that, so they stopped doing that. But then again, like after that's happened, like she tries to get someone to come like untie her or whatever, and then she tries to get Tom Cruise to actually come and like unchain her, and he doesn't. He gets pushed away by the stupid blonde woman, but then she just is like, okay, fine. She just breaks it herself. And it's like, well, then why did you just break it yourself in the first place? So, yeah.
Okay, Balin, now you can talk about the effects.
Okay, so the effects are not as bad as The Last Airbender. But this came out 7 years later. And they don't look that much better than The Last Airbender.
There were so many points where we were just like, that looks so fake and shaky.
Like, okay, there's two things in particular. One is actually very early on when like they basically uncover the tomb, and it's like a building falling away or whatever, like a stone building. Oh my god,
yeah.
And it looks weirdly fake, and I'm like, isn't like a solid building falling one of like kind of the easiest things to animate? It's not, it's a solid object just falling over based on physics. Like, that shouldn't look hard. That shouldn't look weird,
No.
for 2017. So that looked weird. But then, okay, I don't want to. Again, there is one element that I don't want to talk about yet because I want to see if you're going to bring it up first. But basically, there are beings that are CGI'd, and they don't look very good.
Like sometimes the main mummy lady, like when you look at her up close, her eyes are a little bit too like shiny or too white for the lighting in the scene.
The saturation, the color saturation of her doesn't match the color saturation of like the backgrounds.
It's really weird.
Yeah, and also, and again, there's like, for example, there's some CGI beings that like they look like too shiny. And it's one of those things where, like, you know how they hide kind of effects in, like, you know, in the dark or whatever, or with like a very kind of precise lighting source so it's easier to animate. It's like they did that, but then it still looks weird. So it's just, and Last Airbender is worse, but this is not that much better, and it came out 7 years later. So, and the budget for this movie is a range. I looked on Wikipedia. There's a range of 125 million to 195 million.
Oh god.
So
I have no idea.
They have no excuse.
Most of that budget probably went into like Tom Cruise's paycheck.
That, and also, again, knowing Cruise, they probably actually, that like airplane scene, they probably did actually like film that for real. Because there are airplanes that go up in the sky and then sort of like fall for a while, and you can sort of film with like zero G. So like that could be real, but like it doesn't make the scene any better. So whatever.
No.
Okay. So, from what I read on Wikipedia, it appears there are a lot more supernatural effects that took place, such as the sandstorm in London. There's also a ruby and many more mummies. How do you guys feel about this addition, or were they unnecessary?
Okay, you kind of touched upon what we were talking about earlier.
So we're gonna say it now.
So this movie, like half of the time, is basically it's a zombie movie.
It's a fucking zombie.
It's a fucking zombie movie. The whole thing is that she ends up converting like a bunch of these people to her like minions, but like they're not like mummies. They're like zombies. They're basically zombies.
They make zombie noises.
They fucking, do the whole zombie walk of, and like, and this is what I'm saying about this. The CGI zombies, they look weird, and like, it's just fucking zombies, and it's like, why was this movie's a zombie movie?
This
for
movie
a lot
is called
of it.
The Mummy, and like, sure, you can argue that a mummy is a zombie wrapped in bandages, but this is called The Mummy. This is called The Mummy and Zombies.
Yeah, and
Mummy and zombie are no.
And they're not even like, they're people who died and she like wrapped them in bandages, and now they're like, no, they're just dead people who are now alive again, who are still wearing like the clothes they were wearing before.
Sucks out the soul of random alive people, and then she's like, woo, and then they become her zombie army.
Yeah, it's just like there's literally things with the whole zombie trope of like, they like, are sort of like they're trying to drive away, but one of them's like stuck on the car, and they're trying, what I mean? It's like a lot of like zombie tropes with like it too of what happens. It's just like, it's like, they like, they knock his arm, they knock their legs off, but they keep crawling towards him anyway. It's all these zombie tropes, and it's weird. And I'm like,
there were a lot of points where I was just like, are they just cashing in on like The Walking Dead? Because I think it was pretty popular around this time, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. I remember it was popular sometime in the 2000 teens. But
it felt so zombie.
Yeah, it's weird. So, and like, I mean, the only reason they have the sandstorm scene in London is just for that one shot with like her face in it, which I know is like a shot from like the 90s mummy movies. That was a thing in there.
From what I could tell from the reviews that I saw, it seemed like in that movie it was a cool effect, but in this movie it wasn't so much, mainly because it was in London as opposed to an actual desert.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the idea of like, having this being using powers that are sort of not suited for where they are, again, that can be a fine idea, but like it just comes out of nowhere, and then like what was the point of it? Like nothing. What resulted from that sandstorm?
Yeah, because, like, the thing is that if she was able to summon the sandstorm theoretically at any point, why didn't she do it earlier?
Yeah.
Instead of the crows, she could have just knocked the plane down from the sky with a sandstorm.
I think she was...
There was a sandstorm before they, like, left, so I guess that's what that's implied to be.
Fake, though.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, the original movies were more in line with genres of horror, drama, and mystery, What would you say the genres were in this film?
I mean, with all the zombie stuff, it was clearly trying to be like a horror movie in that sense.
A horror and like a
But-
weird porno.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah. But again, then there's all this stuff with like, you know, Jekyll and the lady that's like, I don't know, it's not even a mystery. It's just like,
Is it supposed to be like a drama?
I don't know. It's exposition. That's what it is. So I don't know.
Fair.
It doesn't feel like it would be in a horror movie though. It just feels like sort of
Mhm.
standard sort of, you know.
Is it more of like an
Movie,
action movie then?
I guess I don't know.
I mean, the action's not even that great.
No, okay. So literally, the sort of climax of the movie is like, is there's like, you know, the big fight between Tom Cruise and the mummy, and she just like beats the shit out of him. But like, here's the thing: it's not even fun. Like, she just like smacks him, and then he flies across the room, and then he kind of is like, ugh, and then he sort of gets up and runs at her again, and then she smacks him again, and it's like it's boring. It's like it just happens
It's so
over and over.
pathetic.
Yeah, and then okay. Do you have any questions about like the ending of the movie?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to say this then. So the whole point, I think I get this right. The whole point of the plot, what the mummy wants to do, is that she wants to stab Tom Cruise with this special dagger. There's a special jewel in it, because if she does that, that will sort of like bring Set, the god of death, into Tom Cruise's body, and that's what she wants because she thinks Set's gonna like love her or something. I don't know. Okay, so that's what's set up from the beginning. What's set up from the beginning is that she wants to stab a bitch with this dagger. Okay, that's sort of the thing that can't be happen. That's the bad thing we don't want to happen. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so he gets the dagger from her in the fight somehow, and she doesn't notice at first, and he's about to like destroy the dagger, and then she's all like, wait, no, don't do that, then you won't be able to save the white woman who's dead, which she's like dead or drowned or whatever at this point.
She's dead?
Well, yeah, so
Is she drowned?
yeah, but then so he's like, okay, and then it's like, okay, so it's the whole thing where he's gonna, you know, whatever. But then here's what happened. Guess what he does with the dagger? He stabs himself with the dagger, and it's like,
What?
isn't that what she was gonna do anyway? So,
Exactly.
so literally the whole thing is like, oh, so the thing that was supposed to not happen just happened. So he does get some like power again. That's the whole thing. But he turns into some monster or something. But then he just like, so it's like, oh, so he failed, right? He did the one thing. The one thing happened to him that we knew was the bad thing. But then he just like somehow like overpowers her and just like sucks her soul out anyway. And it's like, oh,
What?
so the one big thing that you've been building up as this is the bad thing that we can't let happen, happens, and then the plot just resolves itself anyway.
Yeah.
Like, what? It's so
But
like,
then he could have just stabbed himself earlier with the dagger?
right?
Apparently
Exactly.
so.
So apparently so. So it just takes any sort of like plot tension out of the plot whatsoever, and then it's just like, I don't know. It's just it's just such a bad story design.
This movie is a lot of like, apparently they could have done this earlier.
Oh yeah.
Just happening over and over and over
Yeah,
again.
or apparently this is what they had to do. Yeah, they sort of
And
walk
then he
into the
revives
story
the white woman, revives his friend, and he and his friend fuck off to Egypt.
to Egypt.
No,
It's 2 minutes.
So basically, in a movie where there's apparently zombies and a mummy, everyone lives.
It's
I
a
guess.
happy ending.
Everyone lives in the end. That's a good person. Yeah, of the main characters anyway.
Huh.
Because there's some random people who die, of course, in the background. Oh yeah. So again, the whole thing about like the zombies or whatever that the mummy makes, like near the end of the movie, once like she does kind of corner Tom Cruise, she just like makes them all like turn into dust and they like go away. And it's like, first of all, you're just getting rid of the people that would help you in the fight or whatever, so that's stupid. But then it's like, well, wait, so I guess they were like formed from dust or something. So like, why couldn't you just form people from dust earlier? It's just
Apparently so.
I don't know. It's just there's a lot of really dumb things in this. It's just again, the story writing, the actual writing of the plot, and like why, you know, just the natural flow of a story and how events should logically lead to the next event, and like, you know, you should, if you have a thing where you say throughout the whole plot, don't let this thing happen, then don't have it
Don't let
happen,
the
and
thing
then resolve anyway. It's just like it's yeah.
The pacing was so weird too.
Like,
Cause
think of it this way. Okay. Imagine if in Avengers Infinity War, okay, Thanos snaps his fingers. Half of everyone dies. But then Captain America somehow, like, gets really angry, like rips off his gauntlet, like punches Thanos in the balls, and then like snaps his fingers. Thanos dies, and everyone comes back to life in the last like 5 minutes. Like there'd be no emotional impact whatsoever in that ending, right? That's basically what happens in this movie.
Punch him in the balls.
So yeah, if Infinity War was like this movie, that's what would have happened.
Oh my god. It was somewhat evident to us that the original Mummy didn't have a novel source material to use as the other movies like Frankenstein, Monster, Dracula, even The Invisible Man, they all had novels that were... As it was more so inspired by events at the time. Do you think that might have helped this film?
No. I mean, well, because here's the thing, like, there was, of course, the 30s movies, but also remember, there were, like, the 90s and early 2000s Mummy movies. We saw that one of them, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure they're kind of basing it off of that stuff, and again, we haven't seen any of those movies, I don't really know much about those other movies, so, you know, I don't know how much of it is actually probably more so, like, kind of a copy of those. I imagine that's probably more of a base than, like, the original movie or, like, anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. So I
just find it so weird how they remade the Mummy from the middle Mummy, the Mummy from the 90s, because I feel like a lot of people like that version, so why would you make a worse version?
Well, because I think the idea is that people like the Mummy from then, so of course we make a new Mummy, then people will like this one too.
And then just randomly add Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they wanted the dark universe, remember?
Yeah.
God.
Wasn't like Johnny Depp supposed to be the Invisible Man or something?
I don't remember.
I think that was a thing. Because I remember there was like a promotional image of like, look at all of these like, you know, monsters and these actors who are going to play them, and like, you know, that went places. I think that was. I need to find that because now I'm curious.
That was not a thing that occurred.
Nope.
Question 9, I think you guys already answered, but I guess if you want to add anything more, there's do you guys think that this movie is like a so bad it's good kind of movie, or it's a comedy, or there's no comedic aspect to it at all, basically?
Well, okay. Again, I said before that like I was most worried that this movie was going to be just really boring.
Same.
And it wasn't really. Partly just because, again, the story was just so nonsensical, and, like, the pacing was weird. Like, it both felt, like, slow, but at the same time, it felt like not very much happens.
Yeah.
So it's, like, it's slow, but at the same time, we got here fast or slow. I don't know. So, like, it's not really boring. Although I will say, okay, the credits in this movie, because we were, like, at the, like, after the, you know, the fucking ending happens, basically, and, like, he kills her and has this power now or whatever. We were looking at the movie like, how is there 15 minutes left? What the hell's gonna happen in this movie? You know why? That's how much time is left? Because the credits are over 10 minutes long.
What?
Yeah, the credits are over 10 minutes long, and there's no like post-credit scene or anything either. So we're just like, okay.
I don't even know how they did that.
Yeah, it's just like, that's really weird. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's you know,
there are better bad movies that are entertaining.
Yes, definitely. Like, yeah, especially again, like kind of like what I said about Last Airbender. Like, do not watch this on your own.
No.
But even then, like, Last Airbender, in terms of how bad it was kind of interesting in how bad it was. This isn't interesting in that way. It's just, you know, it's just bad. So it's not like infuriatingly bad or makes you angry or like makes you bored out of your mind. It's not that. It just
makes you confused.
It's just bad. Like, so it's just sort of standard bad, and like, you know. I mean, it's maybe a little bit worse than standard bad, but it's not bad in any like super weird ways, really, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
All right, last question, which is a little bit of a curveball.
Oh.
Because Tom Cruise is in this movie. So I wanted to ask you guys a question, which
about
is,
Scientology. Oh, okay.
Do you guys think this is worse than the Mission Impossible film we all disliked?
Yes.
Oh, am I too? Yeah.
Yes, because that movie has some stuff that's funny. And I remember that the action scene at the end was kind of just like stupid nuts. That was kind of like at least entertaining.
That's
in a
the one
way.
with like the woman who like stabbed herself with like the virus or something, right?
Yes, and there's a whole. I remember this whole thing with like they're on like motorcycles and like they like fucking like ride at each other with motorcycles.
Then they bitch slap each other on the beach.
Yeah. So like again, so like that has some like entertainingly dumb stuff in it where this doesn't have that. So yeah.
Yep, that's my final question.
Okay, so I guess we have to do a rating now.
I mean,
do you guys have any closing thoughts?
I mean, it's gonna sound weird, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Because again,
it's not boring.
It's not boring. I thought it would be really boring, right? So it's still bad. I don't recommend watching it, and it's not even like it's not so bad it's good or anything. But I don't know. Like, especially if I came into this with no context, I would not be saying this. But because everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's the Mummy, it's the Dark Universe, it's so bad." Like, it is bad, but I don't know. I maybe thought it would be even worse. So I don't know. Like, okay, if we're gonna jump into a rating, I think I know what I'm gonna give it, part of because of that. But do you anyone else have any thoughts before I give a rating?
Well, I don't have. I can't give a rating, so
I can't remember anything else that we found weird or appalling.
Yeah, again, there was a bunch of stuff that we want to talk about, but I think we mentioned it all. So, anyway, because of kind of what I just said, and again, you could say that Last Airbender is sort of more interesting in how bad it is, but that also means that it is just really bad. So, in terms of that, I'm going to give this a 2.
2?
It's not. I don't think it's close to a 1. But I don't think it deserves a. I don't think it's a 1. Like, it's sort of like, how I said when back for the 300 movie challenge, how like the Grinch to me was like so bad it's interesting. Like, that's kind of how I felt about Last Airbender, but like this is just sort of like, bad, right? But like that doesn't mean the Grinch is like better than some other movies, right? So I'm gonna give this a 2, but yeah.
I'm trying to think, because like, oh my god, I put Man of Steel at 3, and I'm just like, how do I even? Let me think. It's like, on one hand, I agree that it didn't have as many feelings about this movie, because of course, like, we both watched the last Avatar, The Last Airbender, which is like the TV show, so we had more context going in. And even though we watched the original Mummy, it didn't help at all.
No, it didn't.
I don't know what to. I mean, in a weird way, just us trying to figure out what was going on, it was kind of fun, but like, I feel like the fact that it was called The Mummy, but it's a zombie movie, I think that kind of bothers me.
Yeah.
So I think I'll put it at like a 1, but it would be like a 1.5.
Okay, you're sort of a higher 1. Yeah. High 1, what great praise. Yeah.
Hooray!
Yeah, hooray indeed. So there you go. You did it. You're better than The Last Airbender. Round of applause.
Well, you get to say what we're watching next for our punishment.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so see, here's the thing. If I were to guess, before we went into any of this stuff, which of these movies would be the least bad, I would have guessed what we're about to see. But now I don't know. Because again, I thought Mummy was going to be really boring, and I feel like this one might... Again, it has a bit more of a personal element to it. Okay? We know a little bit more about this going into things. We're watching Justice League.
Oh boy.
We're not watching BVS.
No.
I will never watch BVS.
I do not want to watch BVS. I'm not watching BVS, but we are watching Justice League, and I don't know. I have a feeling I feel like this movie might like personally piss me off at this point. Okay. So I don't know.
Okay, wait. Speaking of Mission Impossible, we'll have Henry Cavill with his CGI lip.
Oh yeah, that's in this movie. Oh yeah. Oh man, I
I
forgot.
forgot about that.
I did forget about that.
I'm looking forward to it. Just the CGI lip, because I hated Man of Steel so much.
Ugh, man. Ugh. It sucks because like, well, never mind. I'll talk about this when we actually get to the talking
Talk about
the
your
movie.
feelings about
Yeah.
DC later.
Yeah. Oh, DC. Why'd you gotta just fuck things up so bad?
It shit the bed.
It's a different universe you guys are going to.
Yeah.
From the Avatar universe, and now the Dark universe, and next is the DC universe.
Actually, speaking of Last Airbender, so you guys have heard that like they were doing like a live action like sort of remake of the show.
Oh yeah, but like a darker version or something.
It
like
got
that.
canceled.
Yes!
Oh really?
Like yeah, like just a bit ago.
Yes!
So because apparently originally the original like creators of the animated show were part of the production, but they left like a few months ago. And so then people were like, what's going on? But they officially canceled that. So, yeah, that's not happening anymore. But here's the thing. Apparently, so literally after, Last Airbender 2010, like, M. Night Shyamalan had been, like, trying to convince people to, like, fund a sequel for, like, years. What? And the only reason he stopped was because they were like, no, we're doing the show instead. So now that the show is being canceled, is M. Night gonna really try to push for another, like, a fucking movie sequel again?
I would just love to see that. Like, just him being like, hey, the show got canceled. Can you, like...
do me a solid?
Another one?
You know what? I will say this. If a sequel Last Airbender movie comes out, we're watching it.
Yeah, we'll watch it.
We're watching it.
Oh, boy.
But... who knows? We'll see. Instead, we have Justice League to worry about.
And Cavill's lip!
And other stuff. And not Darkseid. Okay, anyway. That's later. Okay. See you next week for Justice League. Ugh.
Yep. For another, I am the sane man in the room.
Yep.
Rather sane woman, I guess.
Sane persona.
Sane persona, yes.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.